when you're in a state of abundance, you can make better deals. And that's a tricky place to be, because inherently, like, to get to a place of abundance, you need to have done deals and you need to have built up some success and level of capital. But it's amazing what happens when you could start thinking about things in the terms of like, I don't really need this, right? I don't need this deal to close. I don't need this money. I don't need this client. That's so powerful.
Hi, everyone. I'm here with my great friend, Max Finn, and I'm really excited to be here. Let me just share with you a little bit about Max. For those of you that have been around e-commerce and marketing, you know who Max Finn is. He was probably one of the earliest people on the Facebook platform and was the educator for many of us and many of my teams as far as how to really optimize the Facebook algorithm from meeting and buying perspective. He's pivoted and now focused all in on TikTok, and he's one of the leaders also from media buying and has among the closest relationships with TikTok for what he's doing. Also, some things is that he built an e-commerce business and he sold his first business to Russell Brunson. He's built a full-service digital marketing agency with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. And today, Max owns a portfolio of businesses, including an agency, marketing education company, consultancy, e-com brands, and SaaS companies. He's trained over 10,000 marketers and generated over $250,000 on direct response revenue for his clients. And he's also, you'll see him on stages such as Traffic and Conversion Summit, Social Media Marketing World, Affiliate Summit, Ad World. And Max is probably one of the most nicest guys you'll ever meet with the highest level of integrity. So excited to have you here.
We can call it a day, right? That was it.
Yeah, that was it. That was a long way, but that was it. And he lives with his wonderful family in Orlando, Florida. So, it's funny. One of the first time I was able to spend time with Max is we chatted before we knew each other, but you identify where were you when this happened? And as I tell you the moment, you're going to remember where you were. Do you remember where you were as COVID was starting to spike at the very beginning? And the president gets on TV and says that we're shutting down the airports from international flights. And it was Wednesday, and he was shutting them down on Friday nights. And it was this shock wave that this is real in the United States. And that's when everyone started hunkering down that weekend. So where I was at is I was in Orlando, Florida for one of Max's on his new mastermind group that he developed, and had the most incredible thought leaders that were in the room that we hung out with, that we learned from. And it was just an amazing 3 days, but that kind of was a massive ice bucket of cold water. And my daughter was doing her semester abroad from college, and she was in Barcelona. And my wife called me in a panic at the dinner that we had and said, I just went online. I can't get any flights. I can't get her back. And so with that, this is where it's great to be a dad occasionally, where you can come in and do something, because we can't, at a certain age, we can't do a lot for our kids. But solving those issues and getting her home was that I got that covered. But that moment, those 3 days were incredible. And there was this tense feeling that COVID was brewing everywhere. And then hearing the announcements that's where I was with you, Max and Jeremy.
It was wild. I think we were probably one of the last live events that happened before everything got shut down. It was literally that day we were all together in that event. So it's pretty wild. And yeah, you never forget those moments.
We were having this fascinating conversation because we were talking about what Max was doing right before we started the podcast. And while this is a deals and exit podcast, and I have a bunch of questions in that orientation, but the one I want to focus on is deals. As CEOs and leaders and founders, our responsibility is to find leverage to grow our businesses. And whatever resources we need is how to leverage. And sometimes that is through an acquisition, sometimes through a merger. Sometimes it is through a strategic deal with a partner. And that's what I love about deals. Sometimes it's a branding deal or a licensing deal. So what we were talking about before the podcast was you were sharing with me what you're doing, working with one partner, leveraging media to raise money for a fund. Maybe you can share more about that, Max.
Yeah. What we've figured out is how to acquire high quality applications and high quality book calls with paid social. So our team's done an amazing job. Jace, who's one of the best media buyers I know, who's we've been fortunate to have as part of our team the last few years. Built out all kinds of cool stuff in his free time, and he started building all this amazing infrastructure out for our coaching program about a year ago, because we started getting, looking at the metrics that most media buyers look at when they have coaching programs or they're raising or any of these types of funnels, book call funnels, which is what's my cost per book call? The problem with that, and we were talking about this before, so it's going to be repetitive to you, but for people listening, it'll be new. The problem with that model is it doesn't tell the whole story. That just because your cost per book call or cost per application is under what your target is, doesn't mean this is actually the ad or the audience that you should scale. So we started looking at is, well, all the back-end stuff, the application, the answers, the data, how do we pull that in and look at that at an ad level, an audience level, pass that back to the ad platforms, bring the sales guys in so they can also be inputting into our Google Sheets. This person showed to the call. This person's like legit. They actually didn't just put fake application stuff in there, and then use that to make decisions. And so we're using that same system now for raising money because it's the same exact flow. It's ad to a landing page, to an application, to a IR rep, to a sales guy that's calling them. And we're asking questions like, what's your, check size, investment horizon, basic stuff like that. And so now we know that, hey, this audience, this ad is bringing in, people with $1 million plus check, and they're looking to invest ASAP, versus this audience and ad that's bringing in people that are looking 6 months out, looking to write a $100,000 check. So even though that ad might be getting lower cost per calls, the ROI is actually lower. And so we've kind of figured out this really good system of how to buy media and get high quality leads. And it's just working really well. And so it's a great deal. It's really, really scalable because everyone's always looking to raise money, right? There's never a shortage of businesses and funds that are looking for capital. And there's never a shortage of people that have capital that are looking to invest in new deals. And so if you can get good at bridging those two parties, you can make a lot of money.
Now, how does you go out, you have the sales guys on the calls, and then he's collecting the information on it. How does that information get back to your audience building in order to tweak? I mean, typically, if it's cost per click, that's easy. Cost per order, basically, if there's an actual sale. But how does the data come back about to just say is the quality of the prospect and the type of prospect get back into the algorithm?
So there's two things that happen. One is, so we use Go High Level, and with GHL, we can pass back through Conversion API. This is getting kind of nerdy, but with Conversion API, we can pass back different answers because the forms are in Go High Level. So based on the answers they give, we can say, hey, this is a qualified lead. This is something we want to pass back to this lead. So we can send that back in real time from Go High Level as the answers come in for that person. The other part of it, which is what's happening a few days later once they hop on a call, that's more so our media buying guys can get further qualifications and quality control on the lead. So we have a Google Sheet built out. It has every single ad and audience broken down, every single lead that's come in broken down with their answers, with their data. And then the sales guys, they're going into their CRM, and a lot of times it's Go High Level, and they're putting notes in. They show up for the call, their answers were right, all this stuff. That's then getting put into the Google Sheet and updating the cells for that person. So now we can go in there on a daily, weekly basis and look at, here's the leads that came in. Here's, the ads that are driving this many qualified leads. This is the show rate for those ads. This is the close rate for those ads. So it's part of it is being used to pass back to the ad platform. Part of it's being used just so our media buyers know.
I understand. For the media buyers, they put in their ad, but we're actually not passing that information back into Meta or into, okay. It'd be great if you could, though. And there's also some applications that I see that are being further and further refined on the call side, that when before the agent takes the call, is it's actually taking the name, the information, doing a scrape on the data that's available on this person online, whether it's linked in other sources, and actually customizing a script around them personally. And therefore, when the sales person is coming on, they have a customized script to that individual.
Yeah, I don't think we're that far off from that being fully automated. I would say in the next 6-12 months with AI and the advancements there, you're going to see more and more of that type of tech out there that can really personalize the sales experience.
Yeah, we got a demonstration a year ago of it was an outbound shop. Guy was growing his shop on shop like crazy, and that was the AI app he built for it that did it. It was not as refined as what you see now because it's getting so much more, the improvement is pretty incredible. But still, it was fascinating to watch it. You throw in a name of a person who was in the group, who was coming to our event. You put it in and basically it automated. It was really, and then the script that came out the end, which is so much better of, hi, tell me about yourself. So
yeah, everyone loves that question.
If you could tell me about the sale of your e-com business to Russell Brunson.
It's a funny story. So I started a company called Startup Drugs in 2012, 2013. Basically, it was a t-shirt brand for entrepreneurs that had a sense of humor. So it was a lot of fun kind of inside jokes on t-shirts, and it did pretty well. It was, I made a lot of mistakes, didn't know what I was doing most of the time. But one of the cool things was we had a lot of interesting customers that would buy shirts from us. So we would have, I think, probably the two coolest orders we ever got among many. One was the Miami Dolphins. I remember seeing one day an order come through and it was there, like shipped to their stadium, to their player center there. And they bought like 60 t-shirts, which is pretty cool. And then the other was Russell Brunson. And I just kind of started getting into, like, the reason I was able to grow Startup Drugs is because of Facebook ads. That's how I got into Facebook, was right around that time. And so I was getting deeper into digital marketing and was just kind of discovering guys like Ryan Dice and Russell and all this world. And so I was like, this is really cool. And flash forward a few years, the business never really, we got distracted, other things going on. It just never was a priority. And it was a print on demand t-shirt business, right? So there's not great margins even back in those days on Facebook in a print on demand t-shirt business. It just was rough. And so it kind of just faded away. It was, doing, I don't know, 50 grand a month, like a really, really small revenue. And some guy approached us, said, hey, big fan of the store. I'm kind of building this group where I'm going to have a podcast, kind of a media company. And this is like 2016, 2017. And this would fit really well into that. Or are you looking to sell it? And it was like perfect timing because we were basically just going to throw it away. We were just like, we're not doing anything with it. And so we threw a number out there and he was like, I don't know, 60 grand. Like, give us like 60. It was like nothing. But we at the time were like, this is great. We'll sell a business. Cool. It's better than nothing. And so we sold the business to him. And then flash forward to like 2021, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago or so, plus or minus. And Russell reached out to me. And because by that point, I got to know Russell and we were early ClickFunnels users, won a few 2 Comical awards, and just great guy. And then we had run TikTok for ClickFunnels and help them with some stuff. And he reached out and said, hey man, do you still own Startup Drugs? I'm thinking about doing something with the space. And I was like, well, I don't own it anymore, but there's a guy who sold it, so I can reach out to him and see, what he's doing with it. And it was really serendipitous. I reached out to the guy and he basically said the guy that he had brought on to run this whole thing he was trying to build just flaked and the whole thing kind of imploded. And so he was kind of in the same spot we were in, which is like, he wasn't doing anything with it. He was going to throw it away essentially. And so, okay, what if we did this? What if we have a potential buyer, great buyer? What if we structured a deal where you got 100% of the cash to recoup your investment you paid us to buy it, and then we split everything beyond that 50-50? It's like a no-brainer. It's like, I got my money back, plus I'm going to make money, and it's a win. So back to Russell, said, hey, here's the number, and this is the deal. And he said, cool, let's do it. This is like a Friday. I was actually on vacation down in Key Biscayne with my wife that Friday. Said, my lawyers take a look at it, draft something up, get back to you. Lawyers looked at it, came back to us. We had a deal closed, and it took like 2 days. It was like, because again, it wasn't like a ton of money, and it's Russell, but it was a great deal. It's the guy, the initial investor who bought it, got his money back, plus he made some money on it. We made money. Russell got this cool property. Unfortunately, he's never really done anything with it, which is I'm bummed because I think he could do some really cool stuff with it, but he has plenty on his plate. But yeah, so it was a fun little deal.
Great story, and I think that some of the takeaways from this is that yes, we sell businesses and entrepreneur. We start businesses, we own businesses, and we have to know when it's time to cut bait, burn the boats, whatever you want to call it, as far as let it go, so you can focus on the big opportunity or the next big one. And that happens to us on a regular basis, and we should be cycling through opportunities. Then the question comes in is what is the best way to monetize those exits? Sometimes I had a $15 million business that my partner and I, Drew, just wound down at one point. It was generating about $3 million cash a year. And it was in a specific situation that, in hindsight, I would have done differently. We had a $5 million skincare brand that we decided we didn't have the ability to focus on. It was just going to die. So we decided that the best thing we can do is, rather than shutting it down, at least let's recoup the inventory. So we sold it for the inventory and someone just recouped the cost from that. And those are bad deals. There are the art of the deals about how we can, or deal craft, how we can come up with different ideas to create deals that creates benefit for all. Now, with this specific deal that you did, as far as you sold it, okay, and you moved on, which is great for you, smart. But then the next thing is an opportunity came up to buy the brand, and you created a no-risk way to have this deal done. Because clearly you can call this guy up and say, listen, I'll buy the business for you for 10 grand or 20 grand, gone to Russell and sold the business. And again, and then it might have closed, it might not, because until the paperwork is signed and the check and the wire money is wired, not, and then you're stuck with the same thing. You're thinking about what you're going to do with this. You came up with a no risk way. It was great for the original guy, the buyer, your buyer. It was great for you, and it was great for Russell. So it's very smart. And what I try to challenge entrepreneurs with is creativity is fun. Creativity of deal structures to how can I reduce the risk and optimize the upside is part of the magic. And the more we're exposed to really amazing people, the more creativity we can have. And the other thing we can do is sometimes when we have an idea and we're stuck, we reach out to our network and say, here's what I have, what do you have? And the network sometimes gives you some of the most amazing ideas.
Yeah, I think the key too is, and we found this over the last few years, is when you're in a state of abundance, you can make better deals. And that's a tricky place to be, because inherently, like, to get to a place of abundance, you need to have done deals and you need to have built up some success and level of capital. But it's amazing what happens when you could start thinking about things in the terms of, like, I don't really need this, right? I don't need this deal to close. I don't need this money. I don't need this client. That's so powerful. And we're even seeing it now with some of the deals that we're doing. It's like, hey, we're ultra premium. We're not a good fit for most people. If this is the deal, this is what we do. If it works, that's great. We let it work. If it doesn't, no hard feelings. And it just let them decide. And I think what happens to a lot of people, especially younger entrepreneurs, if it's their first deal or second deal, there's such a scarcity mindset where it's, I don't want to lose this. And so they start negotiating against themselves. They agree to bad terms. They agree to a bad deal. That happens all the time in the VC world, right? Like, it's, you look at, that's where I first started. My first company, my partner Nick and I, at the time, went to college together and started this company while we were still in school. And it was a tech company, and we raised money and did the whole thing there. Like, he has stayed in that world, and now he has a company called MaintainX that's raised their last round at a $1 billion valuation. And so he's continuing that path, and he'll be a billionaire now with that exit. But like, so many first-time, second-time entrepreneurs that go and raise money just totally get taken advantage of, because again, they're so desperate. They need that $1 million check. They need that $5 million check, that they're willing to sign anything just to get the money. And they focus on the first page instead of the eighth page. And they get screwed over in the, pro rata rights and the anti-dilution clauses and all this stuff where you don't look at any of those figures and you think, well, I still own 60%. So this is great. Sell the company for, $100 million. I'm going to get $60 million. It's like, no, because your investor is going to get 3 times preference. They're going to get their money back, then their money back again, and then maybe there'll be some money to split and you'll get that. And it's unfortunately none of this stuff is taught anywhere. And that's the big thing is.
And that's 100%. By the way, explain for those people who don't understand, what is the deal where you bring an investor in and they have an MOIC or they have a 3 times pref? What does that mean?
So it basically means they're going to get their money back first. So it's not just most people think of it when an investor buys half my company, that we sell the company, they get half, I get half, the company split evenly. And that's not the way it works. If you get a preference on that, they're going to get, like, if they have half the company, they're going to get half off the top first. And that can happen multiple times depending on the multiple of the preference. And then whatever's left, then it gets split in that way. So, and I'm explaining at a very abstract kind of high level because it can get very, nitty gritty and boring here. But essentially it's they're taking their piece before you eat. They're eating before you eat.
And sometimes they're guaranteed 200 or 300 times their original investment. They got out first before any money is distributed. Now you can talk about how the distribution happens, whether it's catch up, and that's part of the art of negotiations. And that's why having this, well, one is desperation. I'm going to call different types of biases. One is, as you were talking, I call that desperation bias. I have no choice. I need to get this deal done no matter what and any terms. The next is a desirability bias. You look at page 1, you don't look at page 8 because you just see the high-end outcome, and that's all you can focus on, and you have this desired outcome and you get a commitment. Then along the way, as you made micro commitments to it, basically as you went into a process and you're so far in, then you have your commitment bias because you've told other people you're going to do it, and now you start negotiating stupid terms, things that really going to hurt you. And so are there things that you've done to minimize desperation bias, commitment bias, desirability bias when you're going into negotiations?
A lot of it, unfortunately, and there's 2 things. So one is knowledge. Right? Knowledge is so powerful, meaning, I apologize, was on a serve. I don't know why stuff comes through. I got too many devices in here. So education is huge, meaning you should know these things, right? If you're going to do a deal, you're going to raise money, you should understand what are the key elements of a term sheet. You should review term sheets. You should know this stuff going in, so it's not an unfair fight. Because if you're going without any information, it's not balanced in any capacity. And so education and knowledge is really big. Again, you're not going to be you're going to go into a deal with Mark Andreessen. It's not going to be fair regardless of how much you study, but you can at least come in knowing what to look for and what they're probably going to try to focus on. So knowledge is a big one. The other thing though, which I don't think you can necessarily teach or prepare for, is just experienced success. Because if you can come into these deals with a certain mindset, an abundance mindset, a confident mindset, you can negotiate very differently. Or like most people self-negotiate, right? So, and this happens a lot, not even just in business deals, but this happens in salary negotiations, right? Somebody will come in and they'll be going in and they make $60,000 a year. And they're like, I really want 80 grand. I think I'm worth 80 grand a year. But that's a $20,000 increase. I don't think they're going to say yes to that. I think they're going to say no. So before they even go in and ask for 80, they start at 75 because they think they're going to hear no at 80. So that before they even ask for 80, they've negotiated themselves down. So there's all these things that happen. And I think a lot of it just comes down to confidence, comes down to scarcity. And unfortunately, those things there's not too much you can do in the short term when you're younger and getting started to improve those things. I think a lot of it comes down to you improve those things by failing a few times and then succeeding and building that confidence organically and building success, building wealth, building financial stability where you're okay if I have to walk away from this deal. You're okay if this deal doesn't go through. And what's more important to you is not closing the deal. It's closing the deal on your terms. Like, I think if you can look at it that way, where it's, hey, I'd love to work with this business, but I don't want to work with this business if I'm not happy. If I'm going to be like, so many people take deals because it's that first check, whatever, it's $10K a month, $50K a month, $100,000 deal, whatever it might be. But they know it's like in 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, at some point, I'm going to be bitter about it. There's going to be some issue. I see it time and time and time again. And we've done that. And I've had partners that have done it with us. And you're much better off to just say, no, this is the terms. If it's not these terms, it's in everyone's best interest, not even just my best interest, your best interest, because you don't want me 6 months from now being bitter and, torpedoing the deal or the relationship.
So there's a lot to unpack there. And between abundance and scarcity mindset. And I think that most people can get pushed into a scarcity mindset that changes the dynamics of everything. And even in negotiating a deal, and my favorite way of creating an abundance mindset is creating optionality. If you have more than one buyer, more than one lender, more than one whatever, and you have options, it gives you the comfort level that if this doesn't fall through. So I double down sometimes in investing time and resources to create more options that are out there so I can take more risk. And then certainty is a very, very powerful thing. It's also really important in negotiation to understand is what is really what are really your key negotiation things and what are throwaways. And then what are things that might be material to them that are totally not material to you. And sometimes it's good to not just give into those initially, to hold some of those back so that as you're negotiating for what's material, you can give those at that last moment so they feel good. I don't like to end negotiations in anything where the other person feels like I took everything off the table. You got to leave people with pride and dignity. Otherwise, most things have a working relationship. So making sure that you leave the other person feeling good and not taking all of the Warren Buffett and Charlie Mooney were also really good at that. Is they could negotiate all the meat off the bone, but they never did.
Yeah, that's why they're so successful. Or Charlie was. But yeah.
They took that long-term view. A funny story is that I remember is that one time my first company, I needed a really great CFO. It was tough to find, especially with an early stage company, to really hire one that would take the risk. I found a young guy who had really good CFO experience. He had also had M&A experience. He had fundraising experience. If from my national search, he was an equal one, I was going to have that guy, and I had committed that whatever, almost anything I could do, I would get it. So I remember we were on our way back from a day at the beach and driving back, and I was on the phone taking the call with them, and I'd gone through 5 days of everyday negotiations. And first it was his salary, and then he pushed me really hard on his equity, and that was fine. But then he started negotiating crazy details, including, one is he wanted relocation costs is coming down from, up north. I said, fine. Then he said, and I need redecoration costs. I want you to cover I need a $10,000 allowance on my blinds. So this was after 5 days of negotiation, and now at the end of a 1 hour call, he started negotiating the blinds. And I said, we're done. There's some things about asking for, and he was certain, he was confident, and he had the job locked up. There was no way I was going to hire him. But when someone goes just too far with the level of certainty, and understanding when is enough is a really key thing also, where you can blow a deal up.
Yeah, I mean, that's also the smart move there is like, that's almost like a job interview type piece of feedback you're getting, because that's a type of person. So the type of person that would do that would ask for, if they're really excited about this opportunity, they view the big picture, they got the equity, they got the cash, to then push for something it's trivial, it's superficial, is a move that somebody who you'd want to work with wouldn't do, right? They wouldn't make that request. They would be very happy with what they got. They'd feel like they've had some wins, but they would also, like you said, they would want the other party to also feel good, like they're not getting, hosed and getting a really bad deal.
Yeah, and you're right. That way I looked at him, I said, if he makes me feel like this after our phone calls, and I really liked him, but at the end, then really, do I want him negotiating with my banks and my investors? I said no, and that was it. So so let me ask you this: what was the last time that you got stuck in a scarcity mindset that you really felt on the other side of abundance?
It still happens. It almost now what happens is we catch ourselves. It actually almost happened like a few weeks ago, and it wasn't even. I kind of lump a lot of this into one bucket. It wasn't necessarily a scarcity mindset. It was and a lot of people in our space deal with this, like a client you want to work with, where you let your personal feelings of like, I'd love to work with this person, this would be a big deal, cloud your judgment. And yeah, it was a very exciting, really big name. Somebody I'm a huge personal fan of, consume a lot of their content. And we did an audit for them. We gave them so much feedback in their ad account. They're doing this huge event they need to sell a lot of tickets for. They're really far behind, need a lot of help. And we did it all for free. We shouldn't have even done that, but we did it for free because good faith, we want to work with them. And that was a mistake in general. And we then shared, here's kind of what we're thinking for a relationship to do an initial consulting engagement. And they were so offended by the number. And it was so wild because they also sell high ticket stuff. So it was this very interesting thing. Like they were trying to sell us, we actually were going to buy something from them for some type of coaching stuff. And it was way more than we were charging them. So very interesting. But anyway, it was Jeremy and I had a call after that. And we're like, I was like, well, we really want to work with them. It could be really good for us. It'd be a lot of fun, like amazing relationship to have. And I was like, we can't do it. We can't. Because if we do it, we're entering a relationship weak and we'll never get what we want. And we're going to be bitter about it at some point. And we don't need it. So that was literally a month ago. And we almost fell into that trap of, this is such an exciting person to work with. We're going to sacrifice and make concessions to do a deal with them. And I'm not saying that's never a good idea, especially if you're getting started. That's kind of what we did with Kevin early on when we had our first agency. And Kevin, in hindsight, got a great deal out of it. But Kevin had also built an amazing brand. He was on Shark Tank, all this stuff, and we were nobodies. And so at that point, it made sense for us to use that as a big stepping stone to get to a certain point. But where we're at now, it's like, that would have been a silly move to make. We didn't need it. It'd be fun. It'd be nice to have, but it wasn't something we needed. And so it still happens. And it'll never stop happening. I think you just got to catch yourself. Now we just have the tools to know, like, just don't do it.
What happens sometimes is, as we look at where we're in that scarcity lacking bucket versus abundance, no matter how we are in our cycle of success, when a big thing happens, it kicks our ass. It shocks us that this can still happen. And therefore, it takes us off our game of a certainty and confidence. And certain things that we'd have that level of gravitas and confidence, we don't have. And getting back on and that level of confidence these are mind games. No matter what the level of success are, what's really important is that we always can see ourselves very in a true sense, but never forget our power that we all have in ourselves. And even beginning entrepreneurs, it's the same thing. So we don't have that many minutes left. And since you are one of the leading thought leaders in TikTok and now TikTok shops, want to get your thoughts on where the TikTok world is from medium buying opportunity, how that's impacting Meta, and the impact of AI on this.
We'll try to digest that in a few minutes. It's at a macro level, there's still a huge growth opportunity there for brands to get on the platform, especially TikTok Shop. TikTok Shop is so fascinating because it's completely democratized affiliate marketing, the creator economy, the ability for really anybody to make massive amounts of money. Like it's pretty wild the number of 22-year-olds, 30-year-olds, people that have never sold a thing in their life that are creating videos now for products, and they're selling $100,000, $500,000 worth of a gadget, and they're getting a 10% commission on that. And so it's been very, very fascinating to watch. So I think with TikTok Shop, we're going to continue to see more and more and more brands getting on it at a faster clip. We're going to see more creators getting on it because they see the income generating opportunity. And then from an advertiser perspective, it makes things actually a lot easier because if you're a business getting on TikTok Shop, you can really get kind of almost free R&D on what's working, because you can create an affiliate program, you can be aggressive with your commissions, you could recruit creators and let them do kind of legwork of testing concept, testing angles. And then when things work, you can then run that as an ad. You can also now say, hey, this worked. I'm going to create my own internal ads kind of matching this. So it's very, very fascinating seeing what's happening there and how quickly it's transformed behavior and how quickly it's helped lots of people generate massive amounts of income, and brands grow really, really fast. We had a client come through our coaching program, a company called Nello, and they are now doing over $1 million a month on TikTok Shop. It's wild. Over $1 million a month just on TikTok Shop. Nick Shackelford and Aaron, like what they're doing with their drink brand, right? It's amazing. They're doing massive numbers on TikTok Shop, and they just launched that brand a few months ago. So there's so much amazing stuff happening there. In terms of AI, what you're going to start seeing is, I think, two things. One is more and more AI being used for creative generation, because TikTok realizes that creative is the thing holding a lot of advertisers back from spending more on the platform, because they just can't make enough of it fast enough. So like we're beta testing right now their platform called Symphony Studio, which is their AI platform for basically they have all these AI avatars. You can drop a link in there. It'll take a link from an Amazon listing or a shop page or a Shopify page, pull the images, pull the videos, pull the text, create scripts, and then use one of their avatars to then create a TikTok video. And the avatars are really, really good. It's impressive. So when it rolls out to the public, I think it's going to be even more impressive. So you can now use this tool to make lots and lots of ads with AI, which is very, very exciting.
We're out of time today, which is really a shame, because this is some of the meat I want to get into. What I'm really excited about is we have our CEO M&A Summit for brand owners and agency owners coming up September 23rd through 25th. You're coming in and you're speaking on that Wednesday, so really excited. And then what really love to share with the people that are there is for them to really open their mind and understanding for growing their clients' brands or their brands, how to really leverage TikTok, where that fits into the multimedia mix, multi-channel mix, as well as reading results, but really dig in and inspire them. And whether their current agency or they're looking to buy an agency, what are some things to look at, whether it's a TikTok agency or whether it's a meta agency that they want to open up the door and open TikTok services to. So we'll be sharing a little bit. You'll be sharing a little bit about that and open the door on that. So really excited to see you've been to one of our CEO M&A summits in the past. I'm going to say the one we did last February in Nashville we were able to raise the bar significantly, and really excited about this one coming up in September. So, and having you there with us.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So really looking forward to it. It's going to be a must attend event. So if you're watching this and you want to grow your agency, this is the event you need to go to.
Perfect. Max, thanks.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.